A very good evening to all our viewers. Thank you for joining us again today on the evening review. My name is Teban Jebela. Tonight on the platform, we welcome back a regular visitor. That is Shaun Gariseb, who is a social justice activist. And we called him to the studio this time around because there seems to be a storm brewing around land that was secured for the Khomani, I hope I'm pronouncing it properly, community within the central areas of the country. And there seems to be a bit of conflict about how that land is now being disposed to individual beneficiaries. Thank you very much, Mr. Gariseb, for making time. I remember discussing that issue with you before, but that was before the distribution phase arrived. It was about, I think our conversation was that there was a white man, I think, who sort of owned the land and you guys were engaging him. Is it the same land? Oh, that is a different one?
No. That one is a different one.
That's a different one?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
This one is where?
Yeah, firstly, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on the platform.
Yes.
Once again, Toivo. I was on the platform for this specific Korassieplaatz. You remember when former Minister Kale Slidewine announced the farm, we spoke about it. It was the 8,000 hectares we were talking about. However, normally when these kinds of things, because it was the first time communal land is created after independence for the Khomani traditional community. The traditional authority was recognized without land. It was the only traditional authority in the whole of Namibia recognized without land. That's why we found ourselves in a unique situation. Remember, we are the most displaced community in the whole of Namibia since 1885 when the Germans came, 1915 when the apartheid regime took over, 75 years after independence. Now we are back and forth with our own people. So what happened then was that after the land was given, the process is such that before the certificate is given, there must be a communal land board established so that you can avoid this back and forth of accusing each other. But because the communal land board establishment was taking long, the land was just, the traditional authority was just given the go-ahead to settle all the people that want to settle there. That's how these problems came about. This is the area that is in the 140 kilometers northeast of Windhoek.
Okay.
Yeah, in that area of past the airport. So that you must remember the Khomani traditional community has always been in the pockets of Khomas region. So that's how, even with if you saw the excursions that I had earlier this year, you see I was visiting different pockets and I was finding different grave sites and so forth. Yeah, so that is where it is.
Okay. You said as you drive towards Khobabes, that Red Fleet site?
Yeah, the Red Fleet site. Yes.
Okay. So the land was allocated by government?
Yes, the farm was bought by government in 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, it was around November 2024,
okay.
And it was officially handed over sometime last year.
Okay.
Yes.
And the idea was then to accommodate the landless Khomani people.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what transpired afterwards?
Look, as you see, we've been demonstrating from 1992, petitioning. People have been getting old. Some people have been leaving us. What had transpired is, it's no secret that we have our reservations about our traditional authority. And there's also no secret that we have, generally in Namibia, we have problems with how traditional authorities go about business when it comes to land. So when we now started, last year when we started following up exactly that farm issue of the owner who availed himself, we realized that we were told at the ministry that, what about the farm that you guys have?
Yeah.
You guys are supposed to go. We just went to land while we were following up. You must remember, some of us were taking part in. We had packed these things and given government time because we were part of election things. We didn't even. It's so many things that we did not even campaign. But yeah, we were competing in those elections. So after the elections, we now went to, because December was near, and whenever December comes, we are reminded, especially as Khomani people, when you are going back to Okalongo, as we are here.
Yeah.
So we don't go on holiday, so it reminds us. So we went to follow up. Yeah, this is home. Yeah. So, but now we don't want to sit in Katutura around streets. We don't want to be sitting around here under trees while other people are updating things from their villages and farms. So we went to ask, and we were told, no, but there was a meeting with your traditional authority, and the going into that farm which is created as communal land is there. Because we were following up what happened to this, because we have this problem to say that the farmers, there is a farmer who has taken an undertaking and government is slagging. Why is that the case? And we have this back and forth for 30 years. So we went there to ask, and then we were told, no, wait, but you guys are going in. That's how we found out. And then when we followed up with the traditional authority, they were not keen. So we just decided when we found out that on the 18th of December, when they are going to go in there officially, we as a traditional community and from different community pockets, leaders of different, we went there to go and establish who are these people going in, because there was no transparent process. We didn't know who is going in there. And then to our surprise, we found other people going in there.
I see. So there was no huge announcement by the traditional, a formal one to say, look, after years of the struggle for land, government has now allocated this, so that everybody's aware, and also maybe announcing what processes must be followed for individuals now to apply for them. So that didn't take place, essentially.
That did not take place. On that 18th, we're asking what criteria was used. How did you arrive at having these 35 people? Who are these people? We do not know these people. Why are the people that are non-Khomani people part of the people who are beneficiaries? What about the elderly? What about the people that we want you to consider first? What about the people who have actually fought out for this country, for this farm? Because there have been people who have been demonstrating for years. Why are they not part of it? That is how we started having this quagmire. Yeah.
So ideally, the likes of Mr. Gariseb should have been top of the list, or what are you saying?
No. You see, like I was telling you, Toivo, is that 1885 was the very first time when our people were displaced. So now we only have the last living people who can tell us how the Khomani people lived are those same people who are generational farm workers, people on the other side of 70, on the other side of 75. They are still alive. They were the ones who were last working in these farms, who were generational farm workers, who are the same people who are evicted by these white farmers. If we don't absorb those people now, so that those people can teach us what their grandparents did as Khomani people, we are done. Our roots are killed. So we are of the opinion that let these people are not 2,000. These people are, it's countable people, but they are people who represent roots of families. Let these people go into the little land that has been availed so that we can save those dying customs and traditions. Because young people like us we will never be able we cannot start now and teach our children things we are not taught. Only those elderly people, the last people that are left, are the ones that we can learn from. So the idea is that while those people are alive, let's absorb these people in that available land and let's learn from them what they can recall. That is what we want. Not me. Shaun doesn't have to be a priority. No, Shaun only has to fight for the people so that we can get our things in place and save a bit of what is already destroyed.
Yeah. Do we know what capacity that land can take? I mean, how many more people can be added to the 35?
You see, the land, when I was here with you, I was telling you about the reservations we have with the land. It's 8,000 hectares. You cannot accommodate everyone. The traditional authority in an interview on national TV said they received 3,500 applications. That shows you the number of people that want to go and sit there. Ideally for you, if you want to farm, or if you want to grow in farming or in how you live, you cannot create a location on 8,000 hectares. And also, if you eventually want to be resettled, there are requirements. You must have 150 cows, cattle. You must have a certain amount of goats, and so you won't be able to grow that on a locacy. So what we realized is that we said, even with the process because after we had this back and forth with the traditional authority, they told us, go and give us your list. So what we did is we had a general meeting on the 31st of January, and we explained and said, let us first work on evicted farmers, generational farm workers, and the most elderly, so that these people can go into this farm, especially those of that side of that area, get the bigger quota. Why we want that is we don't want everybody to go there, because if everybody goes there, the capacity and productivity will be affected. Because in our excursion, we also realized there are 53 farms. So we said that one farm cannot be enough for 3,500 people, because what it will do is you will be set up for failure. Let's be productive, show government what we can do, and when we get the next land, the next group of people going.
So this is not just a resettlement piece of land. You anticipate to farm on that land. Is that the idea?
It's communal land. Okay. So there are people who will go there with their livestock, and that's how they will live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
something similar to maybe what I see there at what is the place north of Windhoek? After Breakwater, what is that ghetto area there? Informal settlement.
Towards Okanja.
Yes. What is this place called? The one.
Faith Rand, whatever the place is.
No. It's called what? The farm that used to be owned by Kadenambo and.
Here outside here. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I just forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. So that place, if you go there, is a settlement, but within the immediate vicinity, people actually
have
they had their animals.
No, their common age.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something in that.
Something like that. Yeah. Mode. That's the only way it will work, because even when you have that kind of setup, government also tends to help easier with the provisions that are there, because there is a common age area, and then there's an area of people where they live, maybe each one on 2 hectares or so. That is what we want. That's why you don't want to prop everybody there. But the problem is when you are allowing in other people, when you are allowing in people who are already having places there at the north, at the expense of your people. That is where the problem is. Yeah. That is the problem here.
How are the demographics? How do they look like of those that? What are their background? Because I see in the article that we published in Namibian Sun today, there's a direct quote. We made it clear to the chief, we will not allow our Wambo business people to settle there while our people do not have any place to call home, Gariseb said. Are they Wambos, the 35? What are they?
Yeah, they are Awambo speaking people, business people that are there. Unfortunately, some of these people are the same people which you find in other areas. Now, you see, you must remember, this is communal land and these are traditional affairs. This farm, this land is purely for Khomani traditional community members. Yeah. Even if you are not from Khomani traditional community member and you are from Korihas, you have your own traditional authority there, you have your own land availed there. This one is created for those people who don't have here. Yeah. So the logic is, let's first deal with these people that are here. Yeah. Why are you? Because now the situation is that those people, because they are able to afford to pay what is being asked, they come, and now you have 5 people. If you go to Groot Oak was supposed to be the Khomani the headquarters of the Khomani settlement. Groot Oak, Aroflay, and Nawasport, these are Khomani areas. You go there, you are going to find a lot of northerners and non-Khomani people. How did these people come there? It was because of such things. And we do not want to repeat those mistakes in communal land. Tomorrow government will just simply say, but when we give you land, your people don't want to farm and other people come. When as activists, when we are fighting for land, we are fighting for land so that land can be availed to all people, so that we can continue and also live like the rest of the people. So we are trying to put it to the traditional authority that there is nothing wrong with saying, I want to protect the interest of my people first. In the first place, that's the purpose of why you exist as a traditional authority, to protect your people. If I go to Andonga traditional authority, those people will not approve my application because I'm not from there. And they are not wrong. They are not wrong in doing that. They must first protect the interest of their traditional community. When I show Speed was here, what was Namibia selling? We sell our traditional customs and our traditional ways of being. That's why he only saw those things. We can't sell urbanization to that guy. So we must protect the interest and preserve that. Now, when you are bringing other people, you are diluting your own system. You see, so that is the problem that we have. So we want that quote is in that context.
Yeah, absolutely. We will explore that quote further when you come back, but short break for now. We are still talking to Shaun Gariseb about his discontent in which, or regarding the way land within the common and traditional communities being handled. Now, again, on the and I understood you correctly to say that I'm actually of the same view, that immediate communities must enjoy priority in their areas. It's just logical. If you come to Okalongo, we cannot be outnumbered by another people, or even be closer in the numbers. But there's the issue of our constitution about what is the term? But essentially that Namibians can live wherever they want and whatnot. How do we navigate around that principle?
Yeah, and then that is highlighted by this saying one Namibia, one nation.
Yeah.
But you see, you must remember that even though we have that one Namibian, one nation concept, we have a responsibility to protect and preserve our being as traditional communities. That diversity in itself is beautiful, it is necessary, and it needs to be protected.
Yeah.
Traditional authorities and communities, or traditional authorities, are formed, and they are not, it's not something that people just stand up and say we are going to be tribal. No, it's something that it's actually necessary. It's necessary. So when it comes to traditional affairs, people must also be as Namibians, we must also be selfless, because if I as a Namibian want to, especially while I already have land, because there are a lot of people who are on this, who are beneficiaries while they are land. I brought a list of people who in a different area, they are on different lists there in Omitara, and then again they are beneficiaries on this same land. And then if you go to the north, they have land again, and then they still have farms. How selfish do you want to be that you don't want to allow the next person to own land? You remember when the Undangwa Traditional Authority or Traditional Council was said to be encroaching into the communal land. A friend of mine was very loud about it, saying that no, later there will be KFC here, and what form, and our ways our ways of living will be disturbed. That is the same thing you want to do, and then when it comes to other people, you want us to talk about the constitution. I was speaking to a very, very senior official who was part of the Constituent Assembly. He was telling, he's 90 years old now. He called me and he told me, when we started this country, some of us, he's a Damara man, he's a very senior official. He was telling me we were misled. We were misled under that national agenda. Yes, there must be a national agenda, but while you have a national agenda, the national agenda only applies when it is other tribes. But when it is Awambo people who are intruding in other people, we talk national agenda. When I go to Ovambo land and I apply, there's no national agenda. People are very clear and there's no negotiation. So when we want to have that topic, we must have it honestly and say, okay, then what is good for the goose must be good for the gander. If you want us to live that way, you must also do it.
Yeah. What I have seen, Shaun, over the years, whenever I visit these other traditional communities, and I don't do it a lot lately, but in the years that I used to travel a lot, as a reporter, of course, when you become an editor of a newspaper, you are mostly office bound. But when we were reporters, our bosses, our editors used to send us to Mashinene, Opuo, and all these areas. The one time when I went to Mashinene, must have been 2010, 2011, first time there. I was surprised to find a sizable number of Moshwambo speaking people who run businesses there. They own bars and all these things there. And last year there was this incident where the people of Oshinene, I don't know, somebody stole and they were beaten up by the community or whatever. And then they were going on to say, look, all the non-Oshiro speaking people in our area must vacate. We don't care whether you are Kavango or whatever, Wambu or whatever, but you have to leave now. They were banning the stalls, because people have this open market where they sell clothes or whatever. They were banning these things up. So the Wambus, what I know about them is that they like going to these places for business. So what if the guys that are at the farm now, they just came to set up shops so that those that they come in can then have bread and all this kind of things.
Yeah, look, you see, we must not. You see, we must never for 1 minute think we are not nationalist as people.
Yeah.
What the only fear here is people can take businesses in, and these things, these reservations. Even if you go in other areas, people have the same problem with their traditional authorities selling land to other people, and those are not just ordinary people. These are business people who are financially resourced, and because they are financially resourced, they have the ability to capture and they have the ability to set up shops. Sometimes these shops are to the detriment of that community, because you are now coming to sell alcohol. The next moment you render these people useless, and everybody is just, you have cash loans. People are selling their goats and cattle at you, and then they become useless. You need to protect that. Some communities are weaker in terms of self-sustenance than others. Sometimes you'll find marginalized communities, and you do that to them, it's easy to capture them. It happens even in the San communities. You'll find people calling me, can you please come to this community and help us? The chief's daughter is selling all the land to the people from the north. Then you ask yourself, why is it that everywhere is just Vambus are coming to buy land? And it makes you seem tribal when you speak about these things, but it's the reality. There's a need to protect also those communities by saying that, no, we need to curb the number of businesses we allow into this, especially when communities are sort of marginalized, or there's that possibility of them being there, and you'll avoid what happened in Ochinene, because it's people, when you allow people like this in traditional spaces, you'll get that. You can get people being tribal in urban areas, or how can you not expect that to happen in a traditional space? It will happen.
So how do we make sure that while living by the principle that you're advocating for, to say really that traditional areas must be predominantly be inhabited by the members of that community proper? How do we make sure that that reality is there, but without compromising our oneness as a people? Because we also don't want exclusive tribal cocoons. People are just, Vambus only live on their own, Damaras live on their own, Hereros on their own. Somehow there must be elements of others also living with us. How do we make sure that we do not compromise that? Yeah,
that's why you see, that's in urban areas we live perfectly well. That is, it's fine. There's this notion from when the Khomani have a big problem, because Windhoek as a capital city finds itself in our jurisdiction. Some people will argue and say, so yeah, Chinese is also a Khomani. If I'm born in Oshakati, or I go to Oshakati, our child is born to two Damara people in Oshakati, that person will never be from that traditional community. There's no way like that. Traditional community members are explained in Section 1 of the Traditional Authority Act, Section 1A and B, where it says who is a traditional community member. You must also abide to those rules. When I was in Ondangwa last week, there behind Kwashamba Mall, I was saying, can I not be taken to the chief's place, because he has moved from the old chief. They said, no, you don't just go there. You must go through John Walenga, what. I said, so but you people, when you come to Windhoek, it's easy for you to go to our people. So it must be like that. I appreciate that. Because if we don't protect this, that is our wealth. If we don't protect these things, it becomes a problem. Because I was seeing a video on social media recently where a Caucasian guy was talking about how Africans are not having their own way of doing things. Everything is what. Then I was saying, that guy is right. You see, we must protect our being, at the same time balancing that thing of oneness. That oneness does not necessarily mean it must be at the expense of traditional ways of living. We can do that. It's possible. The land is there for this group of people. Let them live there. When there is that land, and if you want to, because the Traditional Authority Act does not limit you from becoming a Khomani. If you marry in and you say, I'll abide by these people, you become a Khomani, or I become an Andonga person. But then I cannot go to Khomani Traditional Community Festival while there is Andonga, because I've now neutralized as them. It's there. But people abuse that and say, one Namibia, one nation, I can also be a Khomani. But then at the same time, that's just the selfishness that is there. So I think the oneness can be there if Namibians just start realizing that as much as we need to protect, we must also become less selfish, and let everybody just enjoy what is there and protect their traditional interest
Yeah. The final question, if you can sum it up in not so many words, Shaun, is you mentioned a very good example of a Damara couple that happened to find themselves in Okalongo, for argument's sake. You went there as a bank clerk, and then you met another guy who works at the municipality there. You set up, you like the village, your children get born there. They are both, your children are Damara because the parents are Damara, but that is the only place that they got to know eventually. They were born in Okalongo by Damara parents, start living there, build their life there. How do we deal with those kids? Because I give you an example, and I'm sorry that I have to mention a name. I know that there's this Waitele family that lives in Omaheke. They just, I don't know the history of when did they, but all these judges, I think they were born there. The governor of Omaheke, Mr. Waitele, the previous governor, was governor of Omaheke. But it was Wambo speaking, and people would have perhaps wanted a Herero man to be the governor of Omaheke, conventionally. How do we navigate those realities? Do we just say, oh, yes, you were born here, but since you are not one of us, traditionally, you don't belong?
Yeah, but yes, but one thing that binds you to a traditional community is your roots. Me and my partner's child, where are our roots? Where are our parents? Where are our grandparents? That's how the roots are determined. Even in the act itself, it says, where are your roots? It can even be that you are born to a Damara and a Awambo person. So when you are born like that,
no, you can find it to two Damara.
Okay, even two Damara, you will never be from that area. You are just born. It's the same as me, as you being born in Beijing. You cannot be from those communities.
No, the parents are different. But the children, my guy, the children are born in Okalongo, they school there, their friends, everything. They don't know anything about where the parents came from. For the parents, yes, they came from somewhere, but they are from Okalongo.
They can just identify as being from Okalongo, but their roots are not there. Because of that, they will only qualify as traditional authority members by way of the act where it says, if you are accepted by the community, there's a provision that says, and the community must accept you. Ne? So now you say, me, I'm now predominantly from this community. I identify with them. I do things. I go by their customs. Even with membership, when people are going to give something, you will give. That is how you can do that. But your roots are the ones that determine where you are from. You are from Thomas. You are a Khomani. Your parents, your grandparents, the graves. Yeah. That's where we come from. Yeah. That's where you go and find your roots at the graves. Most graves of our grandparents are not in Windhoek. They are in the farms around Thomas region. Yeah. So that's where, and those are the things that are problematic because they are being destroyed. So it's the roots, my guy.
I understand. Now I'm asking because, and you don't have to answer to this one because time is gone now. But I was asking because, ironically, just this morning I was chatting to someone who is based in Keetmans. She's supposed to be in Baja, which is my language. And I was teasing her to say, when last we were in Okalongo or wherever, and she says, no, I don't have any connection to that place. I was born in Keetmans, I'm here. Yeah. So when we see their surnames in the defense force, later we say, oh, the Vambos are taking jobs of, because the surname is not Isaac. And then we say, oh, they should have been excluded. And they say, but I'm proper from Karas, and therefore I don't have any other region.
I know those ones, we know them, they are our people.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that is Shaun Gariseb. He's a social justice activist. Again, gracing our platform with a different topic. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching.